Once there a young man who was passing by saw Iyabo and called for help. He rushed her to the nearby village hospital where she was treated. When Iyabo opened her eyes, she saw a handsome young man by her side who she thought was the doctor. But he smiled to her and told her he brought her to the hospital. Once upon a time, in a small village, there lived a boy and a girl named Kunle and Iyabo, who were friends since childhood. As they grew and blossomed into adulthood, their friendship grew into love. They fell in love with each other and decided to get married. But as tradition demands, every young man up to the age of marriage must serve the king for 2 years as a warrior in the palace. Before Kunle embarked on his journey to serve the king, he called Iyabo and made a promise to her, vowing to return and marry her once his duty was fulfilled. Iyabo was not happy about him leaving. She said to him, "Kunle, you know I love you very much. Remember to keep your promise and return to me." Kunle smiled and assured her that nothing would go wrong, that he would return to her. The next day, she saw him off and they bid each other goodbye. Kunle went to the palace and began to serve the king. Tolulope, who was a maid in the palace, the very first day she saw Kunle, she fell in love with him, and that was how she started coming close to Kunle, trying to be his friend. She would always bring him fruits and food from the palace kitchen, and if Kunle tries to reject it, she would tease him and tell him to collect it, that there was no love portion in it, and moreover, she meant no harm. The other palace warriors would tease Kunle, telling him that Tolulope was in love with him, but Kunle would reply saying he was in love with someone else already and wants to marry her. This kept on going on, and Tolulope kept on being nice to Kunle and bringing him food and gifts. Gradually, Kunle began to fall in love with Tolulope. Anytime Iyabo would come to the palace to visit him, she would see him talking to Tolulope. She was unsettled and felt something was off. Iyabo returned home and told her sister about how she was worried about Kunle and the maiden in the palace. Yemi, her sister, then turned to Iyabo and said, "I wonder why you are waiting for Kunle to return back and marry you, when you have other rich and handsome suitors coming to ask for your hand in marriage. If I were you, I would leave him and get married to another person, because as a woman, time waits for no one." "Okay, Iyabo, what if Kunle is already in love with this girl you are complaining about?" Iyabo then turned to her sister and said, "Yemi, don't talk like that. I trust Kunle. He would never do such a thing." Yemi replied and said to Iyabo, "Then why are you having doubts? Whenever you start having negative feelings about something, that means something is wrong. Do not say I did not advise you as a sister. I have said my own." Kunle's service to the king was coming to an end soon, and he would be returning back to marry Iyabo as promised. But he was no longer in love with her. To him, Iyabo now looks old in his eyes. She was not as beautiful the way she used to be when they were young. Kunle saw Tolulope as an epitome of beauty who was better in his eyes. Despite his newfound love, the memory of his promise to Iyabo lingered like a shadow around him. He felt pity for Iyabo, and not wanting to break her heart or look bad in the eyes of people, after hindering her from getting married and making her wait for him, but to come back and say he was no longer interested, Kunle decided to just marry Iyabo out of pity. After Kunle returned from serving the king for 2 years, he got married to Iyabo. She was so happy that she got married to her childhood lover, and to prove to people that true love exists without knowing Kunle, the man she believes was in love with her has already fallen out of love with her. Tolulope, on hearing the news that Kunle was married, was not happy about it at all. After Kunle and Iyabo got married for 2 years and Iyabo was unable to conceive, that was when her marriage to Kunle became a living hell to her. He would beat her up and say mean things to her. The one that shocked her the most was when Kunle called her a barren woman and told her he regretted marrying her. Iyabo was shocked, and with pain and tears in her eyes, she asked Kunle why he went ahead with the marriage. It was then Kunle then revealed to her that he married her out of pity. Iyabo cried out her eyes and remembered everything her sister Yemi had told her before she got married to Kunle. Kunle threatened her and told her he would marry a second wife. Iyabo did not know that Kunle was secretly going to see Tolulope and promising her marriage. Tolulope, anytime Kunle comes to visit her, would always ask Kunle when he would be coming to marry her. Kunle would assure her not to worry, that soon he would be marrying her. One fateful day, the burden Iyabo was suffering became too heavy to bear. Overwhelmed by stress and worry, she collapsed by the roadside on her way to the market. It was there a young man who was passing by saw Iyabo and called for help. He rushed her to the nearby village hospital where she was treated. When Iyabo opened her eyes, she saw a handsome young man by her side who she thought was the doctor. But he smiled to her and told her he brought her to the hospital when he saw her collapse by the roadside, and his name was Damilola. Iyabo thanked him very much and left. While Iyabo was at the village hospital, her husband Kunle did not even bother to visit her. It was Iyabo's family that came to take care of her. When Yemi, her sister, came to the hospital, she was so pissed to see her sister in that condition. She said to Iyabo, "I think it's right time you let go of that beast you call a husband. Look at what he has done to you. Iyabo, you look so unkempt and unhappy." But Iyabo turned to her sister and replied, saying she was still in love with Kunle, her husband, because he was her first love. After Iyabo was discharged from the village hospital and returned back home, she was shocked to see her husband with Tolulope. When she tried confronting him, he beat her up mercilessly, not minding she was just returning back from the hospital. Iyabo fell to the ground and was unconscious. Damilola, who had taken her to the hospital the other day, was concerned about her and asked some villagers who directed him to Iyabo's house. Damilola, on reaching there, saw Iyabo unconscious on the floor, and her husband was still hitting her while she was lying on the ground. He rushed to Kunle and pushed him away, telling him if he wants to kill her. Kunle then turns to Damilola, and with a smirk, he said to Damilola, "Oh, you are now her new lover." But Damilola ignored him and rushed Iyabo to the hospital. Iyabo was treated and she regained consciousness. When she opened her eyes, she was surprised to see Damilola, who narrated how he came to visit her and saw her unconscious. At that moment, Iyabo's sister came to see her at the hospital on hearing what has happened. She was so furious and told Iyabo never to go back to her husband's house. Days passed and Iyabo was getting better. Damilola kept on visiting her at the hospital and checking up on her. He would crack jokes and make her laugh. He gradually started falling in love with her. One day, he made his intentions known to Iyabo that he wants to marry her. But Iyabo declined, saying she was married and still loves her husband. When Yemi, her sister, came to visit Iyabo that day, she told her about Damilola's intention of marrying her. And Yemi, out of curiosity, asked her what her reply was. But she said she declined. Yemi shouted at her, "You say what? You rejected a man that has been taking care of you and showing you love that your wicked husband Kunle could not give to you." Iyabo turned and said to Yemi that she still loves Kunle. Yemi laughed so hard and said to Iyabo, "For your information, your dear beloved husband has brought in another woman as his wife. The last time I went there to bring your clothes, I saw Tolulope, who is now his wife. So you better marry Damilola." Iyabo could not believe her husband has abandoned her and got married to Tolulope. She then said to Yemi, "Yemi, I don't really know Damilola very well. What if he's just pretending to love me?" Yemi called out her name, "Iyabo, have you seen his eyes? The way he looks at you. He cares so much about you and have been visiting you at the hospital. Just give him a try." Iyabo then accepted to marry Damilola. When he took her to his place, she was wowed to see the huge mansion where Damilola lives. Iyabo had no idea that Damilola was a prince from another kingdom who has disguised himself as a commoner in search of a bride worthy of his kingdom's throne. They got married and their union brought joy and newfound purpose to Iyabo's life. Iyabo got pregnant shortly after they got married. She was shocked because she had tried for 2 years with Kunle, her previous husband, to conceive but to no avail. That was when Iyabo found out the fault was not from her but from Kunle, who was impotent. Meanwhile, Kunle's life descended into pain and turmoil. His marriage with Tolulope was filled with problem and disrespect, as Tolulope would always curse him, calling him impotent and cheating on him with other men in the village. Kunle longed to turn back the hands of time to return back to Iyabo, but it was too late. He lived the rest of his life in regrets. The lesson of this story is that you get a reward for any wrong you do in life. Do not marry out of pity if you are no longer in love with the person, as it will not end up in a good way, but only cause pain and regrets. Thanks for watching. Please remember to like, comment and subscribe. Thanks for stopping by. Bye.